Can Trump really take over New York City or Washington, D.C. just because he doesn't like the person that was elected to be mayor? Let me break this all down, because he threatened to use federal power to take control of New York City if the Democratic candidate Zoran Mandani, who he calls a communist, is elected to be the next mayor. Someone should tell him that this is illegal, and historically, the Supreme Court knows a thing or two about it. So it all comes down to the Anticomandeering doctrine in the 10th Amendment of the US Constitution, and that basically states that the federal government cannot force states to implement federal regulations. And this was done in a way so states still have some sort of autonomy, and that states cannot be used as a tool by the federal government against the people. And there's been 3 Supreme Court rulings that reinforce the Anticomandeering doctrine. In 1992, there was New York versus United States. In 1997, there was Prince versus United States. And in 2018, there was Murphy versus the NCAA. And even the late conservative Justice Antonin Scalia came out supporting the doctrine, saying that if it is violated, such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty. And let's just take a look at New York City. It is known as being a creature of the state, and that is how a lot of local governments are across the country. And that basically means that it exists solely because of the state. Now, the New York City government was established in 1897 by the state, and technically that means the state can dissolve the city government at any time it wishes. It could also manage the city affairs like it did back in the 1970s when the city almost went bankrupt. The federal government has no responsibility here. Now, there are some exceptions to the anti-commandeering doctrine if there is an extreme devastation, but taking over a city just because you don't like the mayor does not qualify as one. And yes, the federal government can withhold funds to the state, but a full takeover of New York City and turning it into Trump City is unlikely. Now, DC is a different story, and that's because it's not part of a state. So there is the 1973 Home Act, which allowed people that live in DC to vote for a mayor and city council to represent them, but the federal government still has the final say for laws and budget. So a takeover of DC is not impossible.